So this particular section specifically talks about how you are going to store the data in AWS. How would you fetch the data, and a set of analysis or the extraction part of the data as well. So this is basically related to how you are going to store, fetch, and put the data in AWS. Okay. The second part, that is the data analysis part. Okay, that revolves around the basic analytics using AWS. During the sessions related to data analytics, we'll be looking at how do you basically use Python for data analytics and machine learning, setting up a local Jupyter notebook, and then moving on to Athena and QuickSight, which are basically AWS's services specifically related to dashboarding systems, where you do a sort of analytics and show a dashboard. We move on to Apache Spark as well, and we would be having AWS EMR as well. Okay, so we'll be looking mostly onto how you do the data analytics on the AWS side. It will be more focused on analytics side. It won't be more focused on the machine learning side, because we have another section specifically related to machine learning and deep learning. So this is only related to analytics, dashboarding, data distributions, how you basically do EMR. The security is related to such services. These things would be looking at in this particular section. The next section that we'd be looking at is machine learning and deep learning. This is a generalized section. Uh, this basically would be mostly onto the creation of your notebooks on your local system, running a set of models on your on your local systems, understanding how basically the things work. Would be also developing some sort of transformer based models as well, for example, BERT or something like that. Uh, Going ahead, in the Amazon SageMaker. So Amazon SageMaker is also a type of Jupyter notebook, but it is uh, basically put onto Amazon's own server, and it is available to us as a service itself. So if you have if you have ever used Google Colab, uh, it is a similar type of uh, service that Amazon provides. It is basically a notebook, a SageMaker notebook, which you open, you put your code onto it, you can run it on a set of uh, virtual environments for that particular notebook. And in this particular section, we'll be going deeper dive into the service itself, as well as in the machine learning part as well, because this is where whenever you go into deploying a sort of uh, machine learning model on AWS. Okay. So here we'll be moving into in the Amazon SageMaker. Basically, we'll be looking at multiple different algorithms, how you can use SageMaker to make sure that these algorithms work. And since we are having a machine learning service that does the basically the part of machine learning and inferencing sections, you can also use this particular service in congruence with some other services, for example, API gateway and lambdas, to basically gain access to the inferencing services. And whenever a query is hit on your API gateway, you can reply back with whatever inference you have received. Okay, so such type of services are basically used as a backend, and then we have a set of APIs which basically communicate between the services itself. Okay, Uh, in this particular thing, we wouldn't be looking much onto the API side. Uh, this course is not designed to be, related to either building an API or building a sort of system where APIs are required. We'll be simply going through how you basically can use SageMaker and how basically these services work on AWS. Okay. Then we'll be going on to the more services that AWS is provide for modeling your machine learning, algorithms, specifically related to, for example, AWS Comprehend, AWS Translate, or Recognition. These services actually provide you a certain set of uh, models which lets you do a certain set of actions. Like for example, if you just simply go with AWS Translate, the only work AWS Translate can do is translation of whatever data that you have provided from one language to another language. So these are a few set of you know AWS's services that are being provided, and they have a very specific purpose. They are basically built for a very specific purpose, and we simply use those services. Here we'll be understanding how basically you can use the services in congruence with probably AWS Lambda or AWS's SageMaker as well. So we'll try to understand that in this particular section. And the last, but the most important one is how you basically bring these thing into production. So once you have already, have a SageMaker notebook present, you have a set of, let's say, AWS data engineering, uh, either lambdas, or you have S3 buckets that are being defined. You have done some sort of analytics as well on AWS using probably a SageMaker or a Lambda. Okay. How you basically bring those onto the production itself, including the machine learning models. So when I talk about models, it's not just about the code, but about the weights that they create while they are training themselves. Okay. So we'll go through the details, how basically the machine learning models work, how you save them, etc. When we actually start with our course. However, this particular section specifically talks about how put or basically use SageMaker in production. For example, how would you put SageMaker on a service called as Edge? Okay, how to put it on edge locations, how to set up SageMaker's security specifically related to either IAM or VPC. Then logging and monitoring of these SageMaker services or any other services to for that matter. And if everything goes well, and if I can finish everything in time, let's say in 30 days or so, then we'd be going with a bonus section specifically related to Terraform. So whatever you have seen over here, we'll be doing manually on the AWS's UI. But if you want to take it a bit further, then you would need a sort of code as a service system where the most useful one currently in the market and multiple different organizations are using is Terraform. So we'd be going with Terraform as well once everything is completed. So up until setting up the production system, setting up how you basically use SageMaker, etc. This is where we end our syllabus. But if we get some time, we'll also finish off the bonus section of Terraform as well. So I'll teach you how basically you can use Terraform to build these systems. Okay. All right. So before we move forward, anybody have any questions? We'll take only 5 minutes for question and then we'll move forward because we are short on time.
Hello, Shishrit.
Yeah, hi.
This is Raju. So
Yeah.
I would like to know this is how it is going to help us in production. Say, for example, we're
Hmm.
using here AWS infra you're using, right? We're using
Yes.
AWS EC2
Correct.
or storage or whatever it is, VPC and
Yes.
Lambda function, everything we're doing.
Hmm.
So what we're going to achieve and what we're going to get benefits in this training in production.
Okay. When we go into production, all of these services that we'll be looking at, they matter. Okay. So let's say if you have a certain set of ML models that you wish to run, you need to know what type of services you need to use for such type of models. Okay, you cannot simply pick up one service and put everything onto that particular service. Right? It needs to be very specific for your set of problems that you are currently looking at. SageMaker, specifically related to ML model, is the best services that the AWS provides for custom model creation. Even you can use EC2 and your own, a set of uh, Jupyter notebooks as well onto EC2. But that is not the best way to do it because, again, when you go into any type of cloud infrastructure, the most important thing for any company or any organization is the cost that it takes. Okay, multiple different services that we are going to look at has different set of costs associated with them. So it's basically use as you go model, you pay as you go. And in such cases, when you go on to production, uh, the scalability of your model, okay, how much you scale your model, how much data that you are currently processing from that model, even that matters as well, right? So not just the cost, but the total, sort of expansion and scalability as well is what matters in uh, any cloud infrastructure. Have I answered your question, Raju?
See this ML services you're saying, right? What
Yes.
ML say for example, ML
Hmm.
services like predicting some information, predicting some values, or estimating
Hmm.
some sort of health related those things. Which one you're going to
Yes.
discuss here, sir?
Okay. So in this case, okay, how shall I put it? So we'd be looking at multiple different algorithms. We won't be looking at a certain set of scenarios. To be honest, we'd be looking on multiple set of algorithms. We'll be getting the basic understanding of how you can deploy, manage such type of required, either code or services on AWS. You can use the services for multiple different scenarios depending on what exactly you need. So when we go into the machine learning part, so in this particular section, we'd be looking at the multiple different modeling structures as well. We'll be looking at how to create or how to basically interact with some sort of transformer based model or NLP. We'd be also looking at multiple different algorithms as well. For example, XGBoost, then object recognition, object detection, KNN, K-means, PCA, something like that. So you'll get the information related to multiple different algorithms at the same time. Once you go further into the while you're basically deciding what type of algorithm you would require for a particular scenario, that that you can take care according to whatever things that you have learned over here. So just look at the data that you have and then take a decision over it. So it's not like we'd be looking at some sort of scenarios. It would be more of a holistic view over that particular, how basically you use these services for your benefit. I hope I have answered your question. Yes, Lakshmi, you can go ahead. Let's move on to the next section.
I think Python is required now, sir, for this course.
Yes, yes, it is required. All right. Uh, okay. Now we'd be looking at how basically we are going to learn the entire course. I hope you have understood what exactly we are going to learn in the course. Now we'll be looking mostly on the how basically will be the entire thing will be taught to you. Most of the code that you'll be seeing would will be in Python. Okay. We'd be using Jupyter Notebook 50% of the time, and 50% of the time we'd be using AWS SageMaker. Okay. So the first part, when we are not familiar with SageMaker, the understanding of those code will be going through the Jupyter Notebook itself. But once we go into the SageMaker, we'll be using the same notebooks that we have already seen, and we'll try to integrate those onto SageMaker. Talking about AWS service, most of the services that we are going to use would be required for our machine learning codes to work. Okay. In this particular thing, the services that we are going to use would be used. So almost 87% of the entire course will contain some sort of AWS service being used, except when we are learning the basics of uh, Python and machine learning. So except then, the most of the things that we are going to work on are the AWS service. Uh, what about data generation? Do we get data pre-prepared for us, or do we have to generate it on the fly? How does it work? So for that particular thing, most of the code, I mean, the most of the coding questions or coding that we are going to look at will have a specified set of data. We do not need to generate some sort of data. But when we are looking at the very basics of any algorithm, like for example, let's say we are looking at let's say XGBoost. Okay, so in this particular case, there is a possibility that we will generate the data on the fly. Okay, we would be using either Python or any some sort of AWS service for data generation. But the chances of it being the data being generated is low, as far as how this particular course is designed. This basically lets you work around with AWS services without worrying about what type of data is there at the background and how you would use that data. Okay, so we won't be generating any sort of data on the fly. Most of it will be available to you. How are we going to divide this entire thing? So most of the course, that is around 35%, would be in coding. Almost 40% would be focused on AWS services. Only 20% of theory, specifically related to basic concepts of either the AWS service or the actual ML related concepts. Only 5% of the course would be using some sort of allied services. For example, some sort of, let's say, deployment mechanism, or a type of we can even go with integrated Jupyter model as well. So let's say if you have a EC2 instance, okay, and over there, if you want to set up a Jupyter notebook, in that case also, will such things are called as AWS Allied Services. So in this case, it would be not more than 5% because we would be mostly looking at AWS itself. So uh, AWS would be on more focus. Coding, yes, specifically related to machine learning and AI, because that is what we are trying to do here. Theory 20% and AWS Allied Services only 5%, not more than that. Probably even less. How we are going to move forward with this particular course? First, we'll understand the basics of AWS. We'll get ourselves familiarized with AWS's services, how they work, etc. Okay, then we'll move on to Python for ML. We'll be learning Python. We'll be learning how you would use Python for ML practices, data sciences, etc. Once that is done, we'll be moving those ML learnings onto AWS, specifically SageMaker. We'll bring all the code that we have already done in ML onto SageMaker. We'll spend more time on SageMaker because that is the only AWS's service that lets you define a set of well-defined algorithms by the user itself. You can run your ML models on AWS, on SageMaker itself. There is no other service that actually lets you run ML services except for Glue. But there are some limitations using Glue over SageMaker, and we'll also look at that as well when we move forward. Okay. Last but not the least, how would you use these, AWS services on production? How you would make it more sustainable and scalable? Okay, so when you move everything onto production, the the most important thing that is being looked at when you move on to production is scalability and stability of your models. Okay, so here we'll be looking at these two main things, how you would sustain it. So when I talk about sustenance, it's not just the maintenance of your algorithms, but also the security that is related for that particular algorithm or the services. Okay, scalability. Since we are on AWS, we do not have to actually worry about scalability. However, there are some method that basically ensures that your code or your solution that you have defined is scalable. Okay, let's say everything goes well in 30 or 33 days. We'll spend the last 2 days on exploring Terraform. Okay, if everything goes well. Otherwise, we'll be simply skipping Terraform because that is simply a bonus. This is not included in your entire syllabus that you're going to learn. Any questions before we move forward? Okay, I guess silence is no questions. Okay, let's move forward with the next part. So, post course, what type of jobs you might look for, or which will basically help you into? So, the first one is like, of course, the data scientist role, which I am currently working as. Data scientists are versatile. I can work on and off cloud services, can work on multiple different scenarios as well, and specifically related to data sciences. It's not just about machine learning, but mostly onto the data itself. So the more focus when we talk about data scientists is cleaning up the data, making sure the data is consumable by the machine learning model that you're trying to develop, and then moving on to the machine learning, uh, you know, fine tuning the models, etc. So that part comes under data scientist role. Uh, how does this particular course help you out? Because you'll be looking mostly onto the most relevant algorithms that are being used in the industry. Also, you'll be looking at NLP side, how that works basically. Uh, you'll be looking at transformer models as well. So you'd be how shall I put it? You'd be more inclined towards learning. If you want to go into a data scientist background, your inclination should be more towards the machine learning part, okay, and cleaning up the data part, okay. Uh, m- Data scientists do not basically care where the data is coming from, as long as the data is available to them. On the flip side, there are data engineers who basically manage, store, and extract the data, and in some cases also do some sort of analysis as well. Okay, so data engineers are mostly looking towards how the data is managed, how the data is flowing in your data set, okay, in a system itself, where you are storing, how you are going to extract meaningful data out of your data that you currently have. So these are the data scientists who work in congruation with data scientists. Okay, so data engineers work with congruence with data scientists. They manage the data part, the data flow, and data scientists manage the inferencing part from this data. Okay, there are two different pathways for an AWS developer. If you want to go purely onto the infrastructure side, one is towards the AWS developer, which is capable of doing a set of DevOps as well, but they only concentrate on AWS services and how to use them effectively. Okay, making sure that whatever that you have deployed is scalable, making sure that it is secure, making sure that whatever cost that is being generated out of these services is minimized at most possible extent. Okay, so this is mostly related to the data, the AWS development side, including DevOps as well. On the flip side, there are MLOps. So MLOps doesn't really have to work on a set of cloud infrastructure. They can work on and off, but their most important lookout is to develop an infrastructure, deploy these infrastructure as code, and maintain the ML projects that you have already deployed using these infrastructure as code, or code as service. Okay, so MLOps is mostly related to the machine learning operations related to DevOps, and they basically create all the infrastructure, help you out in setting up the things, making sure that your ML projects that you are working on has enough resources so that it basically runs. Okay, so that is the work of MLOps. So these are the four fields where you can look for jobs once you have completed this particular course, or if you want to switch internally as well in your current organization, you can ask for the switch, because you'd be having important details related to MLOps as well. You'll be having important details related to how you are going to use AWS services for your benefit. In the first part itself, we'll be looking at how we store the data, how we fetch the data back, how we can do ETL, etc. And in the last part, like for example, SageMaker or Python for ML, in those sections, we'll be looking at how the data scientists work as well. So you'd be equipped with information and knowledge related to all of these sections together, and you can go forward with this information and either apply for new jobs, or you can go with switching in your current job role as well. Okay, I guess that's it for today. Thank you all for joining, and I'd be looking forward to meeting you all